Hey Ben.
Hey man, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Cool. Hello, hello. Where are you joining today from?
What's that?
Where are you joining from today? From where are you
Uh,
based?
I'm based in Singapore actually. Yeah.
Cool. Nice.
How
It's
about yourself?
it's pretty late on your side, huh?
Yeah, it's normal.
Nice. I'm in London right now. I'm in London.
Nice. What time is it in London right now?
It's actually 4 p.m. UTC, so it's still okay. Still some light out from the window.
It's great.
Still some light. Nice. So we're waiting for some folks to join too.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey there.
Howdy. I'm Spizzerp, by the way. I'll probably be the one that's going to be doing most of the talking. I've kind of been like helping out conduct these spaces recently, but it's a pleasure to get you guys on board to have a little bit of conversation about what you guys are doing. But you're right, we're going to take a little bit of time to let people trickle in. We've been kind of starting at around like 11:05 to 11:10 or 11:10, 11:10. Wow. But we'll see how that goes as the people start like trickling. But this is recorded as well, so just in case we don't have that large of a live audience, people will still come back and play this in the future.
Nice, loving it, loving it that we can give back to them, to the community who cannot join on time. I mean, on our side, we always have people who are wanting to listen in. Since we miss out on actual spaces, it's hard. Some people, like web-free nomads, we are based all over the world.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm actually in Thailand right now.
Oh, nice, exotic.
Yeah, just had a thunderstorm earlier actually, so that was pretty fun. I'm coming from like West Coast United States, and so I don't really have this like um, very diverse weather, and so it's been very interesting being here and like seeing the heavy rains and the thunder around during the season. So it's been kind of refreshing.
Nice, nice. So, are you there for the full year or just a couple of months?
I'm going to be here probably for like a year to 2 years is my current plan, but I'm also, as you mentioned earlier, digital nomad. So I'll be taking some traveling time throughout just to visit different areas around Asia to see what it's like to be um, just in this area. I've been in the U.S. I was in the U.S. for about 12 years. I went to school there. Um, so it was about time I made a little bit of a change, I thought.
Nice. Good choice. Good choice. As a matter of fact, I used to live in Thailand
Oh,
for a
really?
year and a half. Yeah, but I like, and I was finishing my high school there, so yeah, it was a long time ago. But very much enjoyed the town and the culture.
Yeah, what area of
People
Thailand?
are extremely nice. Sorry,
What area of Thailand were you in?
in Bangkok mainly.
Nice. Okay, cool. Yeah. I remember coming here as originally I was born in Thailand, so I've come back before for like little trips and stuff to visit family. But it's definitely been very interesting coming back post COVID and seeing how things are, and just how the lifestyle is here compared to the U.S. I guess is it's a little different.
No, it does. It is totally, and also like a lot of like international people coming into the town,
Hmm.
and into the country. So yeah, I haven't been in ages. I definitely need to visit back
Well, you'll
again.
have a connect if you ever do want to come back. I'll be here.
Yes, I'll definitely give you a shout.
Yes. So what? So you said you're in London?
Yeah, so I'm in London. I'm based in London. A couple of also my of our colleagues are based in London, but the rest of the team is scattered across mainly across Europe. We
Gotcha.
have actually one colleague in the U.S. in Florida. So, but I'm right now speaking on behalf of Blog Games,
Gotcha.
which is the publisher of Shatterpoint.
Yeah,
So
I will definitely get more into that in like about 5 minutes or so. But what kind of brought you to London?
well, actually, London has been the city where I lived for the last almost like 8 years.
Wow.
In and out. I graduated high school here, and then I moved into uni, got my first job. did my career and stuff. So yeah, so kind of life.
Yeah,
Yeah,
gotcha.
but
So you'll
sorry.
probably be staying in London for the foreseeable future. You don't have any plans to leave anytime soon.
Actually, I'm gonna stay here for another year.
Okay,
But have plans to move to Amsterdam. I
nice.
really like Amsterdam. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
that's super
have you
cool.
been?
No, I have. Someone. It's on my bucket list, but I have a friend. Her mom does psychedelic therapy out there. And so she's a
Okay,
therapist,
nice.
but uses like the medium of psychedelics to like help, I guess, individuals go through their trips, as well as like kind of talk about themselves and what they're feeling and stuff. So it's more of a guided experience around that. If you've ever like seen any of that being like talked about on media or anything.
Well, actually, yeah, like Dutch people are very much open,
Yeah,
and it's legal actually
yeah,
in the Netherlands. Like all of these psychedelic experiences. And I think with what's happening also right now, like in the U.S.,
hmm,
where psychedelics are starting to be used for
yeah,
treatment of various psychological disorders.
hmm,
Like in Netherlands, it's a big thing because it's like the entire country has been already open
yeah,
for quite some years, and a lot of new startups are pioneering on that front. So I wouldn't be shocked
yeah,
if Netherlands will be the hub, which will really take front in Europe
yeah,
on that side. But yeah, like the entire culture, people are so open.
hmm,
Like you have very talented people working on various product designs. Architecture trends are coming from Netherlands. You have a lot of like bioscience innovations taking place. So yeah, like the entire country has been just a perfect example of a perfectly structured society.
that's super interesting.
So yeah, loved it. You should definitely come. So once I'm gonna be there next year, yeah, you can know that there's also a contact of yours.
I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I'm definitely it's definitely something that I'm planning on doing. Originally, I was planning on actually traveling and going through Europe before moving to Thailand. So what I ended up doing actually was I graduated from school in June, left the U.S. in let's say September, and then was in Portugal for Breakpoint, and then I was planning on going through and staying actually in Europe in general for a couple of months, but then I ended up cutting my trip early and coming back to Thailand sooner than I would have expected. So I still have plans to go back to Europe and do a little bit more of that traveling, sightseeing, and experiencing of the cultures around. And it helps that I'm an Austrian citizen as well as a Thai citizen, so I can go through the EU without the need for a visa.
Nice,
Yes.
nice. Yeah, that definitely helps.
Yeah. Makes it a little bit more plausible.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. Let me shoot actually a message to one of our community managers to give a bit of a bump also within our community for
Sounds
everybody to
good.
join in.
We're doing that on our end as well. But let's see. It is also, we usually try to time this for um, 11 a.m. And like predominantly serve like the US. But also it is pretty much Thanksgiving week, with Thanksgiving being tomorrow. So I'm not necessarily sure how much traffic is online currently. People are probably trying to hunker down and like at least disconnect and relax a little bit, given the current market sentiment as well.
Good point. Good point. I totally forgot.
Yeah,
Tomorrow is a big national holiday.
I also forgot.
While you're living in Thailand,
Yeah,
you're excused.
yeah. No, what is Thanksgiving something that you guys celebrate at all in London or no? I'm assuming it's mainly a U.S. thing, right?
It's actually a US thing, yeah, in
Yeah,
London, happening.
it's what's been interesting is that, and I've noticed from like years prior, but in Asia specifically, Christmas isn't necessarily a huge thing either. But Christmas during that like the holiday seasons, people will go to KFC and like order in advance, at least for Thailand, and they have like reservations for like KFC like takeout orders, and so they have that for like a Christmas meal, which I'm not really sure how that correlates, but like that's like kind of like the holiday festivities, at least in Thailand.
Yeah, yeah, I remember from my time, like Asian cultures are very much different.
Yeah,
And yeah, like having Christmas without snow, it
it,
would be weird.
yeah, it loses the luster.
Yeah,
All right.
nice.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Should we get started?
yeah, we're at 11:10, so let's get this started. I mentioned this before, but this is recorded, so yeah, people will be tuning in at some point. And thanks for everyone who's tuning in live. I appreciate having a little bit of an audience in there. Thanks for taking the time. So I guess just to get us kind of like started, I just wanted to kind of like touch base and ask you a little bit more about yourself as Block Games, right? And then as well as like Shatterpointgg. Like, what is the correlation between the two? But also, can you give me a little bit of a summary between Block Games and then describe Shatterpoint after?
Sure. So yeah. So hi everybody. Those who don't know me, I'm Ben. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Blog Games, and Shatterpoint is one of our first projects which we are pushing into the market. So Blog Games is a Web3 games publisher. So our experience is publishing games. We've established Blog Games just earlier this year. Between myself, our co-founder, and Astati. Astati being a big leading European mobile game studio, which has shipped games for quite some time. Over the last decade, like over 40 games have been shipped into the market
Wow.
on mobile side. So, so we've established blog games because we saw the opportunity in the market with all of these new Web3 game titles coming up by newly established studios or traditional gaming studios exploring the blockchain gaming side. That was a gap for Web3 games publishing, and Blog Games was born on that thesis to help all of these studios, existing or newly established studios, to take those games into the market. So Shatterpoint is actually our first title, which we are bringing into the market. We're going to be live with the game in Q1. Actually, January is planned for closed alpha. I cannot be more excited for dropping this game into the market after a year and a bit of development. And yeah, the whole idea behind our games, which we are publishing, is that we are trying to get them out into mainstream. So all of our games are free to play based, and Shatterpoint especially is a free to play action RPG multiplayer game where NFTs are integrated in the gameplay and distributed for free to the players. So we don't charge for any NFTs. We just distribute them for free during a competitive play. As we want to allow everybody to have a chance to receive something tradable, and everybody should have a right to receive it. So hence, everybody can compete through different gameplay modes, and based on skill for those NFTs, which can give them a little bit of power or a unique look. So that's the whole thinking behind.
Nice. Yeah. So I mean, I guess that tactic for garnering user interest would be then to have people playing the game and then just kind of like trickle in the NFT elements as like something for them to be involved with. Are you planning on introducing some free market mechanisms like an economy or something, a marketplace for users to trade these assets between each other?
Correct. So as a game, Shatterpoint, as a game, it has like an NFT marketplace, which enables for all of those products to be exchanged between the players. But we're avoiding like all of the we're avoiding to push all of the blockchain related stuff in front of the users. So our assumption is that mainstream population of gamers, they don't care what wallet they have to sign up. They don't even want to know or learn that they need to sign up to a wallet. Not even mentioning about what is blockchain and how blockchain works. Everybody wants to just experience the benefits of what you're bringing into the game, and you need to be very explicit on how you bring those benefits and how you educate that mass of players around what that tradable asset is and what it does, and etc. So our take within Shatterpoint is that we teach players through the gameplay on what are NFTs. So one of our core mechanics in the game is that you have to escape a shattering event. So the whole theme in the game takes place in this Shatterpoint universe, which is this sci-fi based environment filled with different environments, different planets, which you travel and reach through portals.
Okay.
And you have to escape the shattering event, which is this cataclysmic event which automatically resets every single season. Seasons are between 1 to 2 months. So what you have to do in order to survive it is to convert your basic hero into an NFT hero, and you can only do that by competing for limited achievements with other players. And through this mechanic, we are trying to onboard everybody into an NFT hero, since everybody eventually will have their base kind of like NFT hero in the gameplay. Although in the first seasons, it's going to be very like tricky to get it because we'll be distributing them in very limited quantities.
Okay.
So that's the kind of like the whole thinking, and then like the player receives the NFT, he plays the game, receives an NFT. We teach him that this is tradable, it carries monetary value against it, and then people can go and exchange them with others on the secondary marketplace. So kind of like doing this entire on-ramp more smoother and almost invisible, powered by an invisible blockchain layer.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that you guys are thinking of, onboarding people into Web3 right off the bat when they start playing your game. Correct me if I'm wrong. What you just described, that's like at the start of the game, right?
So actually, not like at the start of the game, but like the start of the game is you create an avatar and you start playing. You don't even realize like that there's anything blockchain related inside of the game.
So it's like as you go along and you progress, you start building an affinity for the character that you spend time and resources developing and building out. And then so when this shatter event occurs, the user is going to run the risk of either A, being reset and losing all the progress they've made with their character, or B, upgrading to an NFT and having it live alongside them as they progress through the rest of the shatter events.
Correct.
Okay.
And then we have other NFT assets which people learn that they have or they get to compete over in the game, well as we unlock new gameplay mechanics.
Nice. No, that's super interesting. Actually, that's a really good way to go about doing it too. I mean, we've really been able to see from the Reddit example. I think is a pretty similar analogy to what you just described here, right? Like they had a bunch of people get familiar with the platform and then got onboarded into the NFT avatars without even knowing that they were associated with like blockchain or like crypto. So
exactly. Imagine like you as a publisher, like you're buying advertising in our games and on various social platforms, and you're trying to onboard 100,000 players per month. And you need to think about every single friction point you will have while those players are coming in to play your game. Because we're coming in to play the game, right? Which you're advertising, rather than the financial assets or financial instruments which you're trying to pull them in, right?
Yeah.
So games are to be played. We're supposed to be fun.
Just be enjoyed.
While NFTs are the feature, like which allows you to change the narrative, and you can allows you to change the narrative through which you can invite those players as co-owners or as co-creators into your games by giving something for free, which carries monetary value.
Yeah, 100%. The focal point should be the game itself, and then augmenting the user experience through NFTs is a benefit beyond that. Yeah, I feel like that was
I think it's an interesting point that you guys are doing, kind of adapting to the market and understanding how Reddit actually onboarded users so seamlessly, and you guys are trying to replicate it. But one question I do have though is that, it at this point, anyone trying to onboard people into Web3, like it's all still new to us, right? Like, yes, you have built games before, but in terms of the onboarding experience, what would you say like sets you guys apart from everyone else that are seemingly trying to do the same thing?
I would say that we are trying to hide and integrate NFT distribution into the gameplay mechanics. That everybody like right I'll give you an example. Right now we are preparing to do a mint on Magic Eden, and we are distributing NFTs through Magic Eden Launchpad, trying to build excitement and increase the community who would follow us and would participate in the early stages of the game. So that's one way, right? As an example on how we can distribute NFTs. But um, once we have the game, we're thinking how to create gameplay mechanics which would allow us to distribute those games in a competitive environment, that everybody would be competing over something which is valuable. And we're always constantly thinking about what game mechanics could be uh, used, which we could sorry guys, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
loud and clear.
Cool. So sorry. So which game mechanics could be placed and could be used inside the games, through which we could distribute those NFTs. And our model is based on free to own. We don't want to charge people anything. We just want to give everybody a right to own something, and we want to hide all of the blockchain experience. So
That's
we are. Yeah. Sorry, you were saying.
I was going to say that's a very interesting mechanism for onboarding, right? I feel like a lot of the things that we've seen, at least within the ecosystem since we've been here, is that projects have been using NFTs as a focal point to garner funding, rather than offering it as something free for users to experience and kind of grow an affinity for naturally. So that's a very interesting way to go about presenting that, the concept of digital asset ownership to people. And I think that that is an approach that could probably do well in the long term to garner like real user interest in the core game mechanisms itself, and then building it into the NFT and the ownership portion naturally. I like that. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And what about and what are your thoughts from what you've looked so far, like in the market? Like you've mentioned Reddit a few times.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take from Reddit? Do you think that's the right approach?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's a great question. And I personally, I would have to say yes, right? I feel like what was happening before with NFTs was that people were seeing that there was a way to generate profit and revenue from introducing NFTs as like literally just like the focal point of a project without having anything like underlying it as like a structure to build it off of. And I think that was the wrong approach. But I think people just kept recycling that process because it was working at that time. I think it's been really interesting to see us going into a bear market and for people to start finally hopefully realizing that that is not a sustainable model, and that they actually have to now start presenting things for the NFTs to be building off of, right? A way for it to augment the user experience beyond just owning this thing because it's a PFP and then you can showcase it on social media. So I think what Reddit was doing was, yeah, exactly, right? So I think what Reddit was doing was like a positive, and it allowed people to finally realize that there was a different model to selling NFTs, or at least to introducing people to Web3 through NFTs. Um, and that's great, right? And I'm hoping that we see more along the lines of that process that Reddit introduced, and it seems to be the case, right? Like you guys right now are doing exactly a similar thing. So
I think
yeah.
there's a few points that Reddit actually taught us. I feel like, yeah, this Reddit onboarding was a massive thing that actually happened in Web3, and it showed a lot of people, not just in, normal DeFi protocols or even um, other builders, but in games in specific. I feel like there's a lot of things that we could have learned and, absorbed from the event from itself. Like, just a few points. Well, the first that struck me was that they avoided everything about crypto terminology.
mm-hmm.
Things like NFTs, things like seed phrases, like all of these things they avoided, and you know, like some people even mentioned in some Reddit threads, like they hated NFT so much that they swore they will never touch it, but then now they're into it, and they're just vibing with the community. And it's crazy to me that someone that is so like rebuttal, like they have rebutted the idea of NFTs to the point where like nothing could have changed their mind. But once they actually experienced it in the NFT form without the terminology, like everything just changes for them. And I think like moving forward, I feel like the level of confusion for us as builders in Web3 is that, this is just one thing that we have to learn. Web2
Mm.
users just don't like those crypto jargons.
Yeah.
They hate it.
Yeah.
They don't understand
Yeah, I
it.
mean, there was a really good article that I read before where it was like people are already having such a hard time figuring out what like cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology can do. Why add all these specific jargons that kind of take away from the underlying understanding, right? Like you could easily like say something in layman's term like digital money to describe cryptocurrencies, but now there's an actual term for it, and that like disconnects the ability for users to be kind of onboarded in a more natural and easy process. And so it makes sense to go away from that, right? And like the whole thing behind this is the thing that like the subconsciously, or like I guess it's more consciously, people don't necessarily know something, and so they don't like it, right? The whole idea behind like why you might not eat some new food that you've never seen or tried before is because it looks gross to you because you've never tried it, but then you might take a bite and you're like, oh wow, this is actually really delicious, and then from that point forward, you like that food.
Yeah, agree. And also, like NFT, like is not the term that should be used also in gaming. I think like some of the projects are exploring that route. We also too do
Mm-hmm.
not even call anything NFT within the game because like same example as per Reddit, like people are coming into into Reddit to chat, to communicate, to explore, like topics, not to learn like that their PFP avatar is an NFT, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can use like you can almost like use it as a feature, right? Like explore different names of like tradables or collectibles
Mm-hmm.
which more resonate to the gamer, to the user, which is used to all of these words, um, and put and educate that user base for that aspect. Because if you call something NFT, like again, like 95% of the users coming into your game won't even
Yeah.
understand what is an NFT, right?
Yeah.
So that's already like a bad step one. And then step two is you need to then tell them what is a wallet, what is a blockchain, and why do you need to have some gas fees in there.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to hide it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost definitely. The second point that I wanted to bring up though is that, for Web3 games in specific, um, not just Web3 games, I'm sorry, just games in specific,
Mm.
like the first time user experience from onboarding doesn't necessarily actually come from, tricks or gimmicks that I feel like Reddit seems to do it in a way where, quote unquote, they trick users into using NFT.
Mm.
But for Web3 games, I think just like how, a normal Web2 game is trying to convert a user for its first purchase, I feel like it has to like occur naturally, and it has to be um, driven by a force that introduces the experience of purchasing an in-game asset that actually already provides a great experience. And one other question that I do have for you is that, you know in terms of a comparison from a Web2 game trying to convert a user into buying their first asset, like for example Valorant trying to make people buy a skin in the game, right? What do you think is a good point when they're in your game in order to convert them? Do you feel like, yeah, like game mechanics we all understand, but for a user to be converted into, a user of Web3, I feel like that actually provides more of a higher, it's like a higher cliff to climb as
Mm-hmm.
compared to just, using Apple Pay and, you know getting the asset straight away. So, in your opinion, how have you approached this in terms of building your game for user conversion?
So user convert, like, so it's a very interesting topic which you touched, like overall game monetization, and how do you make money off games in order to fuel your continuous development and expansion of that same game, right? So you have um, a couple of monetization strategies, right? So like if you touch right now on mobile monetization strategies, we usually have in-app microtransactions, like some premium currencies which you can purchase or some skins.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have also second revenue stream, which are in-apps, where you can monetize through in-app rewards your users. So like when you speak about like NFTs and conversion into NFT, like converting users into NFT purchases, it's the same as kind of like trying to convert your user into a primary
Yeah.
sale of that same asset or an in-app. So our review is very simple. Like in-apps work based on the gameplay loop. So when you're running, you're doing something in the game. You look like you need some sort of like fuel or resources in that gameplay loop to complete the level, but you struggle, and the only way to get stronger is to buy some premium currency, which would allow you to become stronger to complete that same level, and for you to progress. Or from the social aspect perspective, like Valorant or Fortnite, so they play on the social aspect that like once you play in a PvP mode, like you want to look unique, you want to look totally different from anybody else. And once you have that social aspect playing out, that's where people really start spending money on various skins and stuff. So usually it's like a psychological trigger when the user
Mm-hmm.
purchases one asset or another. And that psychological trigger is usually pushed either by you understanding very well how your user is behaving on a gameplay loop, and when that user wants to like be unique, or when does that user would like to become a little bit stronger, or would like to use a bit of a boost to become to unlock some sort of special ability. So you try to understand based on data those trigger points, and that's where you try to monetize that user while he's playing the game. So the same thing also follows for the NFT conversion, since NFTs right now are the same in-apps, which you right now just didn't sell in the game. You just printed them. You printed them for free, and players are then forced to buy them off other players, which receive them for free. So the same thing follows. It's just how you design the game, and how you understand those trigger points in your gameplay loop when would that user would need to buy one thing or another. So also understanding what should be NFT, and also how to how to make sure that inter NFT carries value, which if I've received it today by competing against other players, will contain value tomorrow. That
Yeah.
everybody else will also want to purchase it, because we will need it to progress or to be unique.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like Web 2 games, it's all about playing on psychology for in-app purchases. You just have to make the player, feel frustrated, and then they'll make the purchase when you put it in front of them. And I feel like that's almost gonna be that case when introducing NFTs to players as well. But sidestepping a little bit, in terms of microtransactions, are you guys still gonna have in-app purchases for, let's say, premium currencies, or is that all gonna be in, NFT forms?
So our take is a hybrid monetization, but I would like to also like just take a step back and just highlight that it's very easy for you to destroy a game, because once you really start thinking about hard like aggressive monetization strategies, you end up in a pay to win example, that the person who has most money will always win the game. And that is very much incorrect, and it is very much against our values which we have internally. So we're trying to like navigate that thin line between pay to win and like a skill based game, because it's very like easy to destroy the game and just focus and just by putting everything as NFTs in the game, because then simply it's just, very quickly that entire game becomes a pay-to-win experience. So coming back to your question, some of the assets in our games are connected through in-app microtransactions, and then we also have some of the assets as NFTs, and also some of the assets which cannot either way be purchased through things. So there's a grinding element. So there's always like a skill-based gameplay mode where in-apps can give you some unique looks and differentiators among your peers, while some of the NFTs are allow you to give a bit of boost to your avatar and also some unique looks. So it's a hybrid monetization model, which we've taken this approach since not even a single game today which is developing a game and working on they can survive only off royalties, and that's a fact. Like, feature of web3 gaming uh, needs to account for both in-app microtransactions and NFTs within the games, where NFTs play more as a feature role rather than as the main kind of like gameplay experience role.
Yeah, that's a really good point, right? I think going back to what you were mentioning before about having it be a fine line between like pushing an NFT to improve user gameplay versus improving user experience is something that projects are going to have to navigate as they move through into like the Web3 gaming space and as they introduce more NFT based mechanisms and as we get into actually having playable games, right? I mean, a lot of this stuff right
True.
now isn't quite in place where there's any things along the lines of like a standard and like set in stone for people to follow. And so it'll take like the trailblazers that are working now to ship these games to actually have that, you know, like that like core belief in preserving like the game experience over monetizing the game alone. So
Yeah, and it's always like such a thin line to
yeah.
like to play through. I mean, like majority of the games on App Store, Google Play, are pay to win, and
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing much we can do. And I think that, like, turns down players. But also, like, you need to navigate it through, and it's always a thin line, but you can definitely make it as long as you include skill in the game.
Yeah. So, I mean, can you kind of describe a little bit more about your gameplay mechanisms then? Like, how are you guys implementing skill to kind of progress the player's experience?
Sure. So within our game, we have avatars, which
Yeah.
every player gets to create, and that avatar on its own, it's a playable character. So
Mm-hmm.
it has level progression. As it progresses through levels, it unlocks traits. Each trait allows you to create a unique avatar for every single player. So
Mm-hmm.
trait might carry some stats points, but also some buffs, which you will experience while you'll play the gameplay. And then each avatar can be constructed with equipment gear. Equipment gear really powers you up, but there's no way you can purchase equipment gear. You get to only grind it and find it by
Okay.
traveling to various gameplay modes of PvE. And then you also have runes, which can be added into your equipment to boost your abilities. So what really makes this game skill-based are the abilities, because we have a total of 15 abilities, ranging from attack, defense, healing, and movement abilities,
Mm-hmm.
which you can construct for each player. And once you have all of these different mechanics combining next to each other, your itself avatar, you have the equipment, which carries the abilities and the runes, then you can create unique playstyles and
Yeah.
unique metas. So once you go then into PvP matches, like, there's never going to be a one-to-one kind of like same match, because
Hmm.
you will have totally different movement and totally different abilities which you'll be using throughout the fight, or in PvE dungeons where you're traveling through different worlds. So it's always unique. You always play through a totally different, unique playstyle, which
Yeah.
you create for yourself.
Yeah, I like that. So are the abilities bound to the equipment or are they bound to the characters?
So we are bound to the equipment.
Okay.
The equipment rotates and changes, but also the abilities strength is bound to the traits which you unlock on your avatar.
Okay. So the trait is like something that you, for example, if I had like some solid traits that I've been working on, that's the reason that I want to progress the avatar into an NFT.
Correct. So, for
Okay.
example, each avatar unlocks 5 traits,
Mm.
and those traits then allow you to have this specific meta for the
Yeah.
with this specific ability, and so on. And what's unique is that all of the non NFT avatars automatically
Mm.
reset at the end of the season, and we lose out the traits, while NFT avatars they retain their traits. So that's kind of like our onboarding mechanic, because we leave some of the benefits, but very
Yeah.
little to the NFT assets, which then people can compete over and buy off each other.
No, that's super interesting. So then do you plan on, for example, like retaining royalties from the equipment being sold on secondary marketplaces, like your own?
So equipment is actually not tradable.
Oh,
So equipment is not tradable only due to the reason to avoid making pay to win. So
okay.
each person has to grind out. So like once the new season starts, like you're grinding your equipment, and at the end of the season, your equipment shatters. So you
Mm.
lose out your equipment. It shatters into shards, this additional resource, which you can use to boost, like to buy some equipment boxes in the next season.
Okay.
But you still need to grind out for your strong equipment gear. So equipment also comes in different rarity, and you need to explore these different worlds to find unique or legendary assets, which will really make you strong in the game. So there's always this like grinding and using skill to find those assets type of gameplay mechanic,
Yeah.
mixed with some of the assets like runes, which you can purchase to boost your abilities once you know which abilities you're wearing on your equipment.
So then would there be any assets or equipment that transcended the shattering event, or with all your items that you like
Only
collected,
NFTs. So only
only the
NFTs.
NFTs transfer those events?
Exactly.
Okay. And so the NFTs won't be the equipment. So then what the NFTs be then?
NFTs are your heroes,
Yeah.
and then they are also your runes and cosmetics. So runes
Okay.
are boosting abilities, and then cosmetics are just unique, like
Yeah.
cosmetic looking stuff.
Aesthetics.
So, yeah, aesthetics, skins.
Yeah. 100%. Okay, I love that. It's a really cool way to go about doing that, right? You're introducing like a balance mechanism that doesn't kind of like take away from the overall user experience, but still pushes for them to kind of get into owning what they think makes a unique character that they have an affinity for. So I like that.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, like our take is yeah, like each game has, you know, like seasons, and you
Yeah.
touched on a very sensitive topic, balancing.
Yeah.
And balancing in games, like each game gets balanced, like week to week, month to month. We don't even wait for the season to finish.
Oh, okay.
So balancing is always like, you know, like something which you're rebalancing your game to make sure that you have the best experience out there. And it never, you know, like it's a continuous evolvement of your game, because as you introduce new weapons, new armor, new characters, like you need to like rethink and rebalance the entire game. So that's the reason why we left also equipment gear out of the NFTs, which
Mm-hmm.
can always be rebalanced to make sure that we always have an equal game between the players
Gotcha.
based on
Okay.
skill.
So
Yeah.
this is definitely something that you guys have like a long term like plan for, right? I'm kind of curious, so like wanting to pull it back to block games itself. Um, you guys, I'm assuming that you guys have plans to introduce other games in the future, or do you plan on just like maintaining this for as long as like what's the goal there?
So we have actually a couple of other games
Oh,
which we're
really?
planning to launch into the market throughout 2023. So we have one more mobile game I cannot disclose, and another one
Okay.
currently in development. So two already confirmed, which we'll be publishing in 2023. So same as Shatterpoint. So Shatterpoint is going into like soft launch in end of Q1, and then global launch Q3. So we will have one more game 100% going into global launch, and then one more into soft launch in 2023. So our stage as Block Games is that we are more like opening up to studios. So there are a lot
Okay.
of studios who need support on publishing, and we have the resources, expertise, and experience to build a strong go-to-market strategy, sustainable monetization strategy, and launch the game into the market.
Gotcha. Okay. So then I'm kind of curious then for these games, the blockchain that you're going to be using for the NFTs, is that going to be Solana? What is that going to be? Or is it just going to be dependent on the game type? Or is there not going to be one specific one and you're going to allow for interoperability?
So actually, it's cross-chain. So right now,
Gotcha.
like
Perfect.
Shatterpoint is built on Polygon, but the next
Nice.
game actually is built on Solana. So also, like the future of like the future of chains
Mm-hmm.
is I think the future is like multi-chain, cross-chain, right? So
100%.
you use different chain for scalability reasons, but also for like liquidity reasons. If you're minting out your assets on multiple chains, so yeah, so that's our approach. And gamers don't really, and correct me if I'm wrong, gamers from what we see, like they don't care also like which chain the
Mm-hmm.
game is on. They just want to experience the benefits of that,
Yeah.
of those assets being tradable. So that's about it.
100%. I think it's really important to have that type of like mindset, right? And that like narrative going into deploying NFTs. I feel like there's been a lot of like connotation around it being like a zero sum game where you have to be all in on one chain, but that's never the case, and it shouldn't be the case because like for true accessibility and onboarding, like into the future for like Web 2 to Web 3, users shouldn't have to worry about if they have an asset if it's going to be usable in a different chain. So I like that approach, and it makes a lot of sense, right? For getting the most amount of people into your platform, into your system.
True, true.
Gotcha.
And what about Zoolana? Like when are you guys getting the game out into the market?
Yeah, Didi, you want to hop on?
Yeah. So this is not supposed to be public, but we are. Yeah, we already have a playable version right now, and we're calling it our alpha. So there's sort of limited features, but it's enough for a player to actually experience one whole game loop, and yeah, we're actually pushing that out really really soon. Originally, we had it planned for um, the end of this year or early January, but it seems like we are able to get it much faster than we have anticipated. But in terms of, again, like in terms of blockchain technology integration, um, just building on to the point that you brought on just now, we also believe that cross chain would be almost the right pathway to go. But I think it's not so much for scalability reasons, because I feel like if you do a hard comparison on Solana and Polygon at this point, I feel like the stats are fairly comparable, and there's honestly not much difference. But it's like the difference comes into like which developers are actually building the code. But in terms of user acquisition, I feel like that would be the right way, because there's already a ton of people um, into different chains. So most people, they will stick to a chain that they like. Like for example, um, as you can guess from our name, we're launching on Solana first. There's a lot of Solana people that are still around, despite the fact that um, through the, pardon my French, FTX shit show that has happened over the past few weeks. But after all, I feel like that's kind of our, I guess, advantage point in building Web3, because user acquisition, I believe, as you know, user acquisition isn't cheap, right? So you're literally buying players for them to play your game. And I feel like in Web3, we can kind of have a stronger go to market strategy as compared to just like a pure Web2 mobile game, because there's a ton of viral marketing elements as well as community social mechanics that we can leverage in Web3 in order to onboard the first wave of gamers onto the game itself, to get some eyes and ears around the world.
Good point. Good point. Yeah, like Web3 is definitely evolving. I think what's very unique, like, and where I see a massive opportunity is Web3 ad networks, where you can reach the person, like much quicker in comparison to, and much more targeted in comparison to the Web2 ad network. But yeah, our take is that community go to market is definitely helps for the beginning, going through technical soft launch, where you need to collect a lot of feedback, you need to reiterate the game, fix the game, uh, because the game which you build, like in a closed office, never is the game which is scaling in the market. It always gets reiterated and changed along the way, and giving back something to the community and allowing them to participate, and scale off, and build up the hype around your game, through technical soft launch, by using NFTs as a product to build up that experience and relationship with your players, always works. And we've seen from like multiple projects doing that. But once you really need to go out and achieve mainstream adoption, I think for now still traditional routes are yet best, for pushing the game into the market. Because if you look into it, like based on stats, right? Like you always have these different cohorts of day 1, day 3, day 7, day 10, day 21, on how many users stay in your game and how many of them are playing your game and how many of them stay, like for the second month. And usually those numbers are like in fraction percentages, like in like not in double digit, but in single digit. And when you're trying to like scale your game, you need like hundreds of thousands and millions of players coming into your game, and that still remains as the main route for getting your game and brand out, into the market.
Yeah, almost definitely. Yeah, I feel like, yeah, like I spoke about just now, I feel like the first wave of adoption coming from crypto users, or Web3 users as we call it, actually benefits a whole lot, because as a viewpoint of a Web2 traditional publisher as compared to like a Web3 publisher, you have, like, right off the bat, as a Web2 publisher, you have to be paying for users to come into your product and converting them at that pace. Whereas, if from a Web3 standpoint, maybe the first 100,000 users is quote unquote free from viral marketing, through social elements that are apparent in Web3 and are still thriving. I feel like that's the main part of the advantage that we currently do have as a Web3 publisher. But building onto your point again, like I said, I totally agree that the main wave of adoption isn't going to be coming from crypto users, but it's going to go back to, CPA, user acquisition.
Yeah, no, agree 100%.
Yeah, I mean, great stuff. I mean, that's like, it makes sense, right? Like at the end of the day, it's like we're still just trying to figure out what works within the space, and so going from what is tried and true and then implementing and integrating new and novel concepts is going to be how we work into branching the Web2 into the Web3 space. But again, trial and error, right? We're still also very early in the space, and if you really think about it, like the amount of at least time you guys have been working on your game alone, what, for about a year and a half now? Is that the time frame?
Yeah, so actually, yeah, over a year and a half. So the team got assembled in around September last year,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, we evolved since then. But we still
Yeah.
have another good year until global launch. But yeah, but the game is fun. I'll definitely get you guys into the early access closed alpha launching in Jan.
We would love that. That'd be super fun.
Let's
Um,
go.
yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
great. So would you say that you guys have been like kind of building at an accelerated rate then?
I mean, you mean the game?
Yeah.
So like game development, like takes time. So
Yeah.
like we have been developing kind of like closed alpha,
Hmm.
but not very much in an extensive gameplay mechanics to make
Hmm.
sure that we've developed everything what we've laid out initially in the game design doc to be able to test out which mechanics work. So I've right now presented to you what we have planned
Yeah.
for the game, but some of those mechanics might need to be left off and
Hmm.
excluded from the global launch because we will
Okay.
learn from the data through the soft launch that
Yeah.
specific mechanics don't work or other mechanics need more attention, and we will put all of our focus and priority towards that. So it's
Gotcha.
always a process, and even like once you go into like much bigger numbers, so soft launch for us is it's kind of like numbers where we are introducing like gamers in tens of thousands, so maximum 50,000 users. But then in the global launch, once you really start onboarding in large quantities those users, you need you get to see totally differently how the game is performing. So yeah,
Hmm. I just,
it's
I
all
guess the point that I was trying to make was, it's been interesting, for example, seeing NFT projects come out with NFTs and then kind of using that as like a crowdfunding to go on and create the games, right? That being in the sense of like there wasn't something before, there wasn't a structure in place before for the NFTs to be built off of. And so it's been kind of like a scramble or mad dash to actually have like working products. And at least from the Solana side, like we've been seeing more games come out within these last few months with like working demos, prototypes, and stuff. Those being shown off at like Solana Breakpoint. But that was after like a year and a half of development, and like that felt like a very accelerate for games development, right? Like completely from like concept to not having like from concept to not having anything to having like a playable alpha or like small iterations of the gameplay and showcasing mechanisms and stuff like that has been really amazing to see. But I guess you guys don't have to face such a similar process for development since you guys are starting with the game itself first, which is
exactly.
yeah
So our
different.
our take from the beginning was let's work on a product, let's
Yeah.
make that product playable and fun. And then as we go out and launch the game, let's onboard, like not 3,000 people, but let's onboard, like thousands of people,
Yeah.
let them play and experience the game, and then, like time the entire kind of like NFT launch around it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a really solid approach and one of the best ways to go about it. Because if someone comes into a game that is like underdeveloped and not quite ready, but it's been shipped, they're gonna play it, not like it, and they're gonna completely disregard it, and even have like negative sentiment to share with other people. So that's like something that should definitely be avoided.
Exactly, exactly. And the minute you ship the game, there's always like a tendency from the community. I want more. Like, why
Yeah.
are you not shipping quicker, quicker, quicker?
Uh,
And that's also like that's also the place which you don't want to get yourself involved
yeah.
to.
Well, I think it's tough too for like the whole NFT space is like a very fast moving ecosystem. And so people are constantly expecting updates, wanting to see something new like every other day, right? And so if you already have a project that people have bought into, then they're going to feel more inclined to pressure you even more. And that could even lead to you creating or like shipping something that's obviously unfinished because you want to like appease your community members who've already paid you for something that you don't have yet. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's very tricky. Yeah, like doing like an upfront big, like
Yeah.
sale, and then yeah, like always leaving yourself kind of like in a tricky position because like you've sold something upfront for a very high
Yeah.
price, and if you want to like turn down the route of free to own, which right now a lot of projects are turning,
Hmm.
it's very hard for you to do so. So yeah, it's tricky. Do you know, guys, Mavia game?
Yeah,
No.
Heroes of Mavia.
Yeah, Mavia.
Yeah, we are familiar with them. We've done extensive research on them as well because we thought that they're building in the same genre as us, but not really at this point.
Yeah. So we be like it's a good example of the project which did something like upfront, like we
Hmm.
sold stuff, but then we later on realized that we didn't want to make a closed game that only NFT holders would play. We realized that free to play is the way, and
Yeah.
it was a very hard decision to pivot, right? And And I think a lot of projects are also like in similar situations when trying to pivot, since that can be very hard and complex to move away from. So I think our take, and obviously you can get more like as on behalf of the publisher, is that you don't want to rush it with
Mm-hmm.
releasing NFTs. NFTs can always be a very good way of fundraising upfront for the development. Not maybe that much right now in this beer market, as in comparison it was just less than half a year ago. But still, you want to like time it more closely with the actual product release, or even once you've released the product, once it's playable, that's where you can use the NFT ticket to build up the community and then get even more traction onto your product.
Hey, sorry to cut you guys off, but I've got to jump to another meeting. Spizzer, please do continue. It's been great hearing from you, Ben. Let's connect in Discord.
Likewise, pleasure meeting you, and then good luck on the project. Let's definitely chat. And let's do this again. So
Yeah,
I'm actually also going to have another meeting right now, so
perfect.
I'll probably jump off to you.
All right.
But it was a pleasure.
Yes, of course. Thanks so much for coming on. It was a great time chatting with you and learning more about your project. For people listening in at home to the recording, you can check out Shatterpointgg and learn more about what they're up to and what they've been doing beyond this conversation, obviously. And then, can you tell us again when you guys were you're planning on having your launch or mint on Magic Eden?
So the mint is happening December, still a secret, but I can
Gotcha,
promise you that it's not that much of a long wait. It's
gotcha.
just around the corner, so make sure that you get your whitelist roll, as we will be definitely minting out pretty quickly. And then we have some secrets, which will be answered, or you will find out with your mints. So, and then we go into the closed alpha, which drops, which we're dropping in January. So, yeah, I'm looking forward. I'll definitely share with you the game and access into the game once you drop it.
Looking forward to it. Thanks so much. And then I think we were chatting with someone from your team. We're going to be doing some whitelist giveaways in our Discord server for your guys' mint. Actually, more details can be found in the Discord for that. But make sure to check it out, and we'll have some more updates around that. But thank you everyone for tuning in, and enjoy the rest of your evening or morning wherever you might be.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye. Ooh, and for the people who are still straggling in here that are around, we do have our Zanis list that is currently open. We're trying to create a comprehensive Web3 network for people to kind of connect with one another who are interested in helping kind of shape the Web3 gaming ecosystem. So apply for that. You can actually find that in our bio. But other than that, have a good rest of your evening, guys and gals. Bye.